Welcome to County Magazine, a chance to find out what's new across Fairfax County. I'm Brian Ashby. On this edition, we'll broach a sensitive topic: how to tell your kids that they're adopted. Then we get a crash course in the county's innovative new recovery court, and an invasive plant species is spreading rapidly and causing alarm in the county's waterways. Plus, it's that time of year again, so join Supervisor Storck for a beautiful autumn bike ride on his Tour de Mount Vernon. There's a simple but daunting question that many parents must face at some point in their child's development: how to tell them they're adopted. Join the Fairfax County Department of Family Services for a look at this complex issue of adoption transparency from three distinct and crucial perspectives.
It's really important for parents to talk to their kids about their adoption for a number of different reasons. One is, what my experience has been, is kids generally have a sense if something is being unspoken, as well as for parents, it is a way to be able to have control around the information and to be able to also be there for them emotionally so they can really help the kids adjust to anything or any questions they may have about their adoption.
I always want him to think being adopted is a good thing, that he was wanted. I don't want him to ever think that he wasn't wanted by anyone. He was my wish, he's my everything, and adoption is a good thing. So I would never want him at any age to find out something and be hurt or worried about that this was a bad thing.
My parents pulled me out of school one day for lunch, and they were like, "Yeah, it's true, you're adopted." And I'm just like, what? And I didn't really know what to say. I had like 17,000 different emotions at the time. I was angry, I was sad, confused. You know, I was thinking to myself, I don't know who I am. My entire life is a lie. Who is Cammie?
There are several reasons that parents may have some apprehension about talking to their kids openly about adoption. One can be that they may not have a lot of information, or there might be negative information they have and they're not exactly sure how they want to express that to their kids. It may also be that they feel uncomfortable themselves about how they came to creating their family through adoption. But it's really important that kids know that being adopted is just another way to create a family. It's not a second choice or a second best. So when is the right time to talk to your child about adoption? It changes over time because kids developmentally have an understanding of the concept of adoption differently. So for instance, with a toddler, they're interested in pretty much the facts. So the facts can be something to the extent of your birth mom and your birth dad were unable to take care of you and wanted for you to have a loving family, and so they placed you for adoption. In those middle years, this is when kids really first realize that there is a loss that has taken place in order for them to be placed for adoption. They are also interested in the facts, and what we can do with those kids is give them a little bit more information. So being able to talk to them about that your mom and dad had trouble keeping a roof over their head, enough food on the table, making sure that you got all of the health and medical needs that you needed met, and they wanted that for you. And then in our teenage years, That's really when the kids want all of the information, and they really should have it because it is their story. And they have the ability to think more analytically. And so here is where we can go into a little bit more depth. Perhaps birth mother and birth father suffered from abuse themselves when they were kids, and they turned to alcohol, for instance, in order to help them forget about some of those feelings.
As I look back at my parents' decision, and I can see the perspective that they had, where I'm just like, they wanted me to have somewhat of a normal childhood where I felt accepted, I felt a part of a family, where there was no question of their loyalty to me or their love for me because I was theirs. But that's not the right way to handle raising a child who's adopted, you know, and so it's important for parents to tell their children, their adopted children, that they're adopted from an early age. But you have to tell them. No matter how that is, you have to tell them. Because the resentment that I had towards my parents affected the relationship that I had with them forever.
It's very important for us to be able to be ready and able to answer our children's questions when they say, why was I adopted? And it is also really important for us not to be disparaging. The reason why it is so important not to be disparaging is because the kids are part of their birth family. And if we're only disparaging about the situation, the only thing that they can relate to, which is part of them and their birth parents, is something that wouldn't be positive.
I think everybody wants to feel that he's my child. And of course I have that too, but you could never have enough people love your child. And if his biological mom gets to the point where she can safely see him, that's just more love for him. So I think that's a good thing for him. I think also parents want to protect their kid. They want to keep him safe. And sometimes parents think that's just you and only you protecting your child. And if the other biological parents are safe for him, then I think that's just more people to love on him. And he deserves that. He deserves to know all the people that are around him.
Foster care is a temporary arrangement. The primary goal is always reunification with families of origin when it is safe. As a result, only a small percentage of children in foster care are adopted each year. Most are returned to their biological families or they go live with relatives. If you are a family who adopted through foster care in Fairfax County and need support, please contact 703-324-7639 and ask to speak to a member of our adoption assistance team. Community adoption resources are available to any adoptive families in our community through our partners, the Center for Adoption Support and Education, and the Northern Post-Adoption Consortium.
Not all criminal offenses are equal. Some are more severe than others, and many are malicious. But some criminal offenses are the unintentional result of behaviors brought on by addiction. Fairfax County's unique and innovative recovery court is here to help residents convicted of nonviolent crimes who violate their parole due to drug use. Here's more.
Everybody looks at drug court like, oh, it's a bad thing. You go to drug court, you're going to jail. Nobody completes drug court. That's a facade. Just my opinion, you don't complete drug court because you don't want to complete it. You don't want to stop doing what you're doing. You don't want to surrender. You don't want to give up the things that you've been doing. And I found out at the age that I am, I didn't want to die in the streets like that. And I had to hold on to something. And God put these things in my life, and it worked.
So our recovery court is a court that bucks kind of the natural trend of what we see in criminal justice of a crime being committed, arrest, prosecution, and punishment. What the recovery courts do is acknowledge that a lot of people that have recurring interaction with the criminal justice system, may have a substance use disorder or a mental health issue at play that is kind of causing that interaction. It takes a team of resources and actually supports that person and helps them get stable in the community, other than just let's go ahead and lock somebody up and give them time and then put them back out in the community and not really address the underlying issue. So those recovery courts take into consideration, if we can get this person stable, we get them the resources and support they need, it's likely going to prevent them from coming back in contact with the criminal justice system. It's very important because it is very smart on crime. It's actually helping our recidivism rate, it's making us safer, and it's also changing the way that people view the criminal justice system overall.
The recovery court does quite a bit to help people with the future that they envision for themselves. A lot of times when people join the program, they may not even have a vision for what they want their future to look like. They just know they don't want to be where they are right now. And it's our job to sort of walk hand in hand with them along the way. And watching their journey and transformation can be really impactful because you see people learn to trust themselves again, learn to trust other people again, manage certain milestones like getting their driver's license back or obtaining housing, building relationships with their children and their parents. So it's definitely helpful in the way that we have the tools and resources, and it's up to the person to pick them up and use them. So it's really special to get to see that process.
I have seen a huge change in clients that go through recovery court. You can tell when people come in and they're not their best selves. You can see the way that they look, and by the time they get to the end of the program, they're completely different people. You can see the changes and the effects that the program has on them. You can hear their stories. You know, they're better off with their friends and family. They've reconnected with them. They get jobs. They feel more stable in the community. They feel like they really have the support and resources to continue to be a productive member of society and not find themselves in the criminal justice system.
It's very different from regular probation. It is a lot more intensive. We do have a lot more one-on-one time with our probationers, which I feel is pretty effective. Some people really need that structure and the contact requirements that come with being in recovery court. You get to know people a lot more personally too, which is great. We get to be able to assess kind of what their individual needs may be in that regard, which makes us more effective in being able to help people.
The recovery court program is divided into 5 phases. The minimum amount of time that somebody is involved in the program would be 14 months. The first phase is a minimum of 60 days, and the other 4 phases are a minimum of 90 days. So in total, 14 months is needed. So it is quite intense in terms of time commitment and expectations. But by the end of it, people will hopefully be able to kind of manage their own lives in a lot better way than they were at the beginning. So recovery court could take longer than 14 months, and we're willing to stick with people as long as they're willing to do the work.
You know, employers will usually in the employment process, they're going to do a background check. The goal is to have somebody that's stable, that's trustworthy, that you know they're going to show up for work, and when they're there, they're going to do the job the right way. Someone that's participating in our drug court docket, you have, in essence, free wraparound protection and reassurance that that person is not only going to be tested frequently, they're going to be meeting with the judge very frequently in our drug court team, being held accountable. They're going to have reminders of where they need to be and how they need to show up appropriately, and again, being incentivized for doing those things. So as an employer, I think it's a very good risk, if you want to consider it a risk at all, to look into and consider hiring drug court participants.
Employers should look to employ these people because they have completed the task that was set before them. It may have taken longer than expected, but they did the things that were required, completing the task that's required of you. And then not just doing that, but going above and beyond the task. I mean, we all have challenges. These people are able to meet those challenges and come through them. And that's what helps to make a good employee.
Addiction is something that someone who doesn't suffer from it rarely understands. And drug court is an incredible alternative to incarceration for someone who is struggling with addiction. It is the opportunity that many of us need to be able to get back on track. And because of this opportunity, my life and the life of my family and everybody that I come in contact with is so much better.
Civil disorder, large groups of people mobilized by political protest, ideological conflict, or social grievance. Civil disorder can be a dangerous condition that can become increasingly chaotic and volatile, but you can weather the storm with these tips. If civil disorder erupts in your community, stay away from the area and shelter in place. Shelter in place means taking refuge in an interior room with no or few windows. While you shelter in place, stay up to the moment with Fairfax alerts and local media reports. Map out emergency exit routes in case your area is evacuated. When public safety services arrive, comply with all law enforcement directives and remain alert to any curfews in your area. A curfew is an order from public safety requiring residents to remain indoors between specified hours, typically at night.
To remain indoors. Again, a curfew is in effect from 7
After the civil disorder, check the area to make sure it's safe and check personal property for damage. No one knows if or when civil disorder will erupt, but if it does, you can be prepared. Download the Community Emergency Response Guide from your Department of Emergency Management and Security and be prepared for all hazards in Fairfax County.
Next on County Magazine, yet another invasion is taking place in our natural spaces. This time, it's in our waterways. Trappa bispinosa is an invasive plant that has begun to encroach on our county's stormwater ponds and other water bodies. Trappa is an emerging threat that, if not taken seriously, will soon strangle out native plant population. Take a look.
There is an invasion happening in Fairfax County and the surrounding region, and we need your help. An invasive plant species has been detected in our county's waterways.
So the invasive plant we're talking about is two-horned trappa. The scientific name is Trappa bispinosa. Sometimes you'll hear it referred to as water chestnut. It goes by a bunch of different names. I use trappa. Two-horned trappa is native to the Far East. We don't know how it got here, but there are records back to 1995 from Virginia. We know it's been in Fairfax County since at least 2000. Where we're standing here today in the Centerville, Fairfax area, this is kind of the center of its abundance. Clifton, Centerville, Manassas, it's where we found it in the most lakes and ponds. So two-horned trappa is an annual aquatic plant. Annual means live fast, die young. They come up in the spring or maybe later, and a cold, like a hard frost, kills it. So those seeds that are produced are going to be growing next year. It's also rooted and floating, so think floating like a water lily. It floats on the surface of the water, but it's rooted. It grows in shallow water up to 12 to 15 feet deep, but personally I've never seen it in more than like 4 or 5 feet.
This invasive plant can be detected during the months of April through November or even early December. It has 4 petaled pink flowers with triangular toothed leaves that are often red underneath. The seeds are initially green. Old seed pods are black, and you may find these along pond shores in the winter. The two-horned trappa isn't poisonous, but it does have sharp seeds that are about 2 inches wide. They have 2 barbed horns or spines that can latch onto animals and fabric. This is how this invasive plant spreads in our waterways. It can disrupt boating and fishing activities, harm wildlife, and is potentially harmful to our economy. The important task is to reduce the spread of this invasive plant before it reaches the Potomac River and Chesapeake Bay.
We want people to report it. That's very important. We need to know where this is. One of the things about an invasive species is to effectively take care of it, you need to know where it is and where it isn't. There are many ponds and lakes that just haven't been surveyed or haven't been surveyed recently for trappa. So let us know, and there are a few websites you can go to do that.
It's very important that we work together to help control trappa in Fairfax County, and the most important thing that you can do is be eyes on the ground for us. So when you do find that trappa, report it. When you reach out to us, we can find ways that we can control that trappa and hopefully eradicate it from our ponds in Fairfax County and beyond.
If you see two-horned trappa, report it by using this QR code. This will open a sighting report form. You'll see information on this invasive plant and a list of volunteer organizations involved in trappa removal. Staff from partnering agencies and the Northern Virginia Soil and Water Conservation District will investigate and take appropriate action.
So we're hoping that this plant can be eradicated in the coming years. We have funding to do so. Last few years, we have funding from the county and state to treat it with herbicide, and also Fairfax Stormwater as part of their program. They need to keep stormwater facilities open, and so they're treating it as well. We might be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but we need lots of effort, lots of funding, lots of people out there looking.
Let's work together to keep Fairfax County's waterways safe from invasive species like the two-horned trappa. This will help us safeguard the safety and health of our ponds and rivers for years to come.
Supervisor Storck recently hosted his annual district bike ride and community event, Tour de Mount Vernon. The tour is a beloved Fairfax County tradition and an amazing opportunity to get out there, get the blood pumping, and meet your neighbors while supporting and learning about the Mount Vernon community.
We're at the Workhouse Arts Center for our 9th annual Tour de Mount Vernon bike ride. It's an amazing ride. We get to tour the southern part of the Mount Vernon district. We'll spend either 20 or 40 miles, depending upon the ride that you want. You know, getting people out of their house, and whether it's running or riding or walking, is a great way to stay healthy and fit, and frankly, connect with your neighbors and friends and build the relationships that really are so important to good health and longevity. We have people from all walks of life. We have judges and politicians and clerks, and you name it, they're here because they enjoy just getting out on their bike and frankly spending the morning out in this really beautiful weather.
I decided to join the ride today because I really like getting out and exercising. I wanted to hang out with my sister and her boyfriend, and I don't know, I just like getting up on a Saturday morning and, you know, starting my day with some coffee and bike riding.
I like to sign up for cycling events, and whenever there's one in the area, I sign up for it, and that's what I did. It's relatively close to where I live, and it's a beautiful day, and why not?
We are having our 2nd annual family bike ride. We will have kids of, frankly, all ages, but mostly we'll probably 5 to 15 years old. They'll be riding about 3 miles in this area. We're going to have safety demonstrations and a bike rodeo, and just really other things to kind of get family and kids connected.
So this is a bike rodeo, and it's part of the annual Tour de Mount Vernon bike ride, and I started it for my Girl Scout Gold Award, and it's just like a service project you do to better the community. So I heard this was happening, and I wanted to add on a kids ride because I think bike safety is important, you know, making sure kids are wearing their helmets and know, you know, to stop for cars and stuff. And I also wanted them to have fun, so.
I like this event because I like riding bikes. I like this event because I like riding bikes.
Come on out for next year. If you didn't get a chance to make it this year, we're going to have our 10th annual ride. We'll be in the northern part of the district and ride through right around Mount Vernon Estate and along the river. It'll be a fantastic ride.
Well, that's going to do it for this edition of County Magazine. Thanks for joining me. Remember, there are countless ways to get involved in your community and make Fairfax County an even better place to live, work, and play. I'm Brian Ashby, and we'll see you next time on County Magazine.